Welcome to episode 5 of Wrestling is Fiction. I'm Zach Hannigan with my partner, Darkstar Shady. Got a couple big weeks coming up in WWE and in our own shows. Let's get into it.
Alright, so before we get into our episode today, we're going to go through our sponsors really quickly. First off, you can head to our website at darkstarshady.com/wrestlingisfiction. There you'll find links to each site our podcast is hosted on. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and now YouTube. Below that, you'll see pictures of us, what we look like, get little intros on who each of us are, and eventually we'd like to post a few different things on there, such as who our current champions are and maybe some of our storyline recaps. After that, you can head to our sponsors page where you'll find the following listed. First off, there's Gengar's TCG shop on TikTok. He sells Pokemon cards by the pack and also singles. He also does live streams where you can do a rip and ship, where he sells you a pack while he's live, opens up the cards, shows everyone what you pulled, and then mails them to you. After that, we have an energy drink company called W that I partner with. If you go to w.gg and use code DARKSTAR10, you can get 10% off your next order. And personally, I really recommend the Galaxy Grenade flavor. I think it's delicious, and I've been drinking it for about 2 weeks now. Let's get to the episode.
All right, so Steven, we have a couple episodes to get through. Friday night SmackDown on May 10th, and then we have our WWE Raw on the 13th. We've already done our shows for them, obviously, in the last episode. But big news out of SmackDown, I would say, is Cody Rhodes' new opponent and the potential for a double champ.
Yeah, we haven't talked about this at all, so this is just going to be our live reactions towards each other. But, yeah, no, I'm really excited for that match, actually. But I'm very confused if it is a championship match, a double championship match. They're labeling it champ versus champ online. Cody is posting on Twitter saying double champ. Logan wants an undisputed title shot. I don't think Corey Graves or anyone even knew what they were talking about on air because they just said it was a champ versus champ match.
Yeah, the way Cody cut his promo, though, is like it is going to be for the title, which,
yeah,
if you want Logan Paul to drop the title, I don't see why it needs to be to Cody Rhodes. But if I'm being honest, the match feels like it's ending in disqualification, so nobody loses their titles.
Yeah, I know a lot of the like the Wyatt 6 promos and stuff have been kind of pointing towards one of these PLEs as being their return. There's a lot of people online wondering if they come in and end the match before anyone can lose. But at the same time, just because I know, I know Bray Wyatt was supposed to be one of Cody's big feuds after Brock Lesnar. So maybe they want to kind of circle back to that. Maybe they just want to give Logan a big match, but need some way for it to end without him dropping his title before SummerSlam.
Yeah, I just don't understand. There's so many people probably in line for that U.S. title to give a shot at Logan versus Logan getting a shot at the WWE title. I guess I see it in that Cody needs an opponent. I don't know if Logan Paul was the correct choice, but like you said, I think it'll be a great match. I just don't know about the decision making or the idea of if we are going to have a double champ. So I guess defending one title wasn't enough, and WWE fans will probably still complain if he has to defend 2 titles.
Yeah, he'll do 2 matches per show to defend them both in the same night, and we'll still hear he's not as good as Roman was. Why is he even out there this week?
Oh, my favorite comment this week was another Raw with no Cody Rhodes. Like, does this guy?
he obviously didn't watch the draft.
No, I don't think so. Should have pointed him to our podcast.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still confused about the fans just really hating on Cody, and now Logan's getting it too, which a little more deserved, but he's not expected to be there as often. He's kind of just like a one-off attraction for them.
What
But
I don't get about Logan is they cut that promo weeks back that he wants to be a full time superstar. He wins a title, and he's definitely not full time.
yeah, and he's been posting on his own social media about how he wants to be a full-time superstar, how he is going to give it his all, and he's been on TV less somehow as a champion. But I think this kind of circles back to like something that we've kind of mentioned in passing, but it's one of those Saudi Arabia shows, and Saudi Arabia loves Logan, so they're going to give him the biggest moment they can just to make the money.
That's
Like,
all I think this was about.
yeah, like the Saudi Arabia shows, they never have the same build-up, they never have the same feuds. It's just what are the biggest names we can pull for the biggest matches just to make our extra money over there.
Well, and King of the Ring as itself doesn't really lend itself to rivalries. It's more of that
No.
tournament style anyway.
Yeah, and I think we'll get into this a little more, but SmackDown and Raw have kind of been in a little bit of a lull, I think, the last few weeks because it is just King of the Ring focused with minimal storytelling outside of that. You get a little bit here and there. There's a moment in a match or a moment on the side of the ring that kind of alludes to a different story that's ongoing, but you're not really getting a lot of the entertainment out of this other than just the in-ring product right now.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think on SmackDown what they did with rivalries. Not that the Bloodline is in one, but we get that moment where Solo says he's talked to Roman, and Paul Heyman, with his famous shocked face, goes, "You have."
Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting to note. And then, like for instance, we have Randy Orton and AJ Styles here, two guys that realistically could go for a United States title run. They put their two best wrestlers, in my opinion, in the same match. And I text you this complaining. I was like, neither of these guys should be a first round exit in this tournament. And you knew Randy was going to probably win. But it's like AJ goes, and we talked about it, puts on this phenomenal match with Cody Rhodes. And then are we burying him again?
Yeah, that kind of goes back to Cody and Logan. They have both of their champs tied up together while Randy and AJ are battling it out for last place right now.
Well, exactly.
Like,
and I get like King of the Ring is the big thing you want to win at this, but I'm sure that they would rather go after a WWE title.
Yeah, and I think for Randy, King of the Ring might be something that he's interested in, having not accomplished that. But at the same time, like, King of the Ring hasn't had the same prestige for years. Like, it's
a tournament. I think when was they do it last? 3 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember one last year at the very least, but it's been a few years.
It seems like they're using the women's bracket in particular to get new stars over. Also, I mean, we have Lyra Valkyria making her run, and I mean beating, what was it, Zoe Stark?
Yeah.
And then Shayna Baszler gets another loss. Whatever they're doing with those two. And then men's, I guess there's some stars in it. I mean, SmackDown has LA Knight somewhere in the bracket too. Be interesting to see what the fans do if it's a Randy LA Knight final on that side of the bracket.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned LA Knight because if you didn't notice, on SmackDown he did not appear. He did not have a televised King of the Ring match, and social media was going crazy for the fact that he wasn't on TV. They're like, he should be their top star. He should be pushed to the top. He should be winning. Hashtag we want LA Knight, whatever it was. And I feel like the fans getting what they wanted with Cody Rhodes kind of spoiled them to the point where they think they can get anything they want now.
It's true. I mean, I don't know about not showing up to one SmackDown really makes a difference. And I mean, a lot of those guys are doing the live shows in between and wrestling back to back days. Um, I just think, like we talked about, another wrestling match on SmackDown would have been a lot of wrestling, and they still want to use some time to cut promos. I mean, I like to see LA Knight wrestle, but it was what, a first round match, so
Yeah.
I don't think it's like we know he's going to win that as much as fans want to watch it. But Tiffany Stratton had the same thing. People were mad they didn't get to see hers.
Yeah, and I know the night of SmackDown, the next day, LA Knight was sharing a lot of the social media posts on his own of people like wanting him, but then he finally did respond and say, "Hey guys, it's okay to not be on TV. Like it makes it more exciting for these live crowds to have a match with some real stakes at him for once." Like,
Yeah, that's the whole point of those shows, because I know they do title shots on them once in a while, but a title's never going to change hands on a untelevised event.
yeah, and at least from my understanding, I always thought that they didn't quite count the storylines of live shows towards their televised shows. It was more of like a test run kind of thing. But it seems like the last couple months they have actually been kind of mentioning those live shows more often, putting more stakes in them. I know Cody and Shinsuke had a lot of matches untelevised, and they are kind of recapping them on some of the shows and bringing up what happened.
Yeah, it's interesting. They used to pretend they don't exist. Like these are totally outside the WWE universe of
Yeah,
storylines.
I wouldn't be surprised to go back and read that someone did lose a title at a live event just to have it back at the next televised show. Like it's supposed to,
Yeah,
like I thought it was
I
just like a
never
test
thought of
run kind of
that.
thing. But yeah, no, it's interesting to see how they are incorporating the live events. I know, especially around the holidays, right before one of the PLEs, they kind of did like a whole little recap segment of the entire weekend of live shows they did and showed like actual footage they had. Not like television quality, but showed some actual footage that was shot at these live shows to show the matches that happened, how they built some rivalries, how Shinsuke and Cody got back into a little feud again because of it. And I kind of like them doing that.
I like it too. I just wish that, selfishly, I'd like to watch them, but I guess you have to go to them. Find one to go to. Speaking of
Yeah,
that, this coming Raw, what is it, on the 20th, is in my neck of the woods, so I will be attending.
nice. That'll be really cool.
Yeah,
Um,
I should
that's the
I should have made
one.
us a shirt.
That's the Rob just before King of the Ring too, right?
Yeah, we get some finals matches.
Nice. Yeah, I unfortunately over here we don't have a single show announced that I've seen for the rest of the year. I got spoiled
Well,
with a Raw and a SmackDown in the last like 8 months, so now we're thinking about going to maybe Idaho for a live show in September or so.
I think that's the first time I've ever heard you ever say you're going to Idaho
Yeah,
or
no, I've never
anywhere.
been to Idaho. Never thought about Idaho as being a real place, but they have I think a Super Show event happening in September on a Sunday. So we're thinking about just taking a little trip to Idaho for a day or two.
Well, yeah, that'll be cool. I mean, I've heard good things about those live events. So,
Yeah,
just
let's kind of go
reviewing
back to the television though. So SmackDown on
SmackDown results
Friday.
now.
Yeah, so they had a handful of matches and kind of some half-hearted promos in between. Uh, Honestly, SmackDown I kind of tuned in and out of. I wasn't super invested in any of those early round stories, but it is interesting to see kind of how they're shaking up the tournament with. I'm assuming they're going to go Jade versus Bianca in the Queen of the Ring tournament. I'm assuming
I
that's
would
what they're
think
building
so.
towards,
Yeah, I
in
would think so.
which they're giving all these like little matches beforehand just to kind of give them that friction, but at the same time there's a lot more women on the roster, and I don't know that the brand new tag team champs need to be immediately thrown into the Queen of the Ring tournament to fight it out against each other already.
I agree with that. That was kind of my thinking. Let them defend the titles.
Yeah,
Um,
they're either building their friction too quickly or just making the tag titles meaningless because they show up with their titles the day after winning, 2 days after winning them, and they're just in singles competition with their titles as just pretty accessories they're carrying around with them.
Yeah, it's also who else did we have? Nia Jax.
Yeah,
Um,
Nia and Naomi.
I don't know that SmackDown knows what to do with Nia Jax yet. The it felt like there was still a Becky and Liv feud brewing, and then they kind of just plucked her out of that. Um,
Yeah, she's getting the Bronson Reed treatment. They're just throwing her in just to kind of disrupt other storylines,
she felt
and they don't
like a
really have
more
a full plan.
serious Bronson Reed, though. I mean, like
Yeah,
she was
yeah,
actually winning big matches,
yeah,
um,
absolutely.
but now it's like I don't know. Is she gonna do anything in Queen of the Ring? Is she gonna feud with Bailey?
Is she going to be the surprise winner of Queen of the Ring? They don't want to give her a title, but they're giving her the big matches and big wins. Without that, this would be a good spot for her to get some kind of accolade and award for the work she's been putting in.
Yeah, there's also I know when she on her last Raw show she mentioned Bailey and Tiffany Stratton by name. So I'm wondering if that'll be something if they'll steal my Tiffany Stratton rivalry. Um, if you guys
Yeah,
are listening to this, I want royalties.
well, you never know. I know Natalia just followed me on Twitter, so she might find an episode link here and there and start listening and be like, "This guy's onto something."
Pretty much famous now.
Yeah, we're getting there. In between that and really just that, that's all I've got going for me right now.
Huh. Well, there's another person that could have been in the tournament too.
Yeah, Natalia, Tegan Knox. There's a lot of names that
And
could be here, could be televised over a few of these names that don't need it.
I thought about this the other day too. What are we doing with Charlotte Flair?
I think she's still injured.
Yeah, but I mean, eventually
Yeah,
you're not
I
going to
don't know
bring her
where.
back and not put her in a title picture, right?
Yeah, I think she has to be back in the title picture. But I don't know if she has a spot to fit back in without it feeling like they're just giving her the title or giving her the title shot because she's Charlotte Flair.
It already feels like that all the
Yeah,
time.
it does, but I there's no organic spot for her at this point now.
No,
Um,
yeah, and I'm wondering what show she'd even be put on.
yeah, I don't think that there is a spot. She might have to be one of those floating free agents that gets to pick and choose her battles at that point, whatever she feels is most prestigious at the time.
All right, I think one more honorable mention on SmackDown should go to your boy Baron Corbin. He renewed
Yeah,
his NXT rivalry with Carmelo.
yeah, that was a great match for the two of them. I'm if you haven't been following my SmackDown, uh, no, they that's kind of the way I was going with mine is having Baron Corbin, Carmelo Hayes, Braun Breaker all kind of cross paths, and lo and behold, a week later, there's Carmelo and Baron facing up against each other. But they did make him look really strong. If people didn't see him go back down to NXT and have his matches, they may have been a little surprised by how well he came out there.
Yeah, he's definitely ready to be back up on that main roster. Um, then another, I'm sure we'll talk about this a little later because I know we need to get into Raw, but this Angelo Dawkins and Tama Tonga match and Bobby Lashley injury and then the Zelina Vega injury. I know you and I both kind of questioning are these really injuries? Um, it feels like it's a convenient excuse to not be in the tournament.
Yeah, I they kind of put this tournament together with some of these first round matches where Tama Tonga obviously needs the win. They want him to do something up that ladder. Maybe him and Randy face to face again. Um, but that leaves people like Bobby Lashley, AJ Styles losing in that first round, where it isn't believable for them to lose that first round. So is Bobby hurt? Did they just need him out of the way for story? Zelina Vega, I can kind of see it either way, but She takes a lot of big losses when people want her push, so I wouldn't be surprised if they just had to pull her so that she isn't taking another big loss again either.
Yeah, I get Tama Tonga had to win. I just think the first round bracket could have been put together a little better.
Yeah. And
I
that's,
don't know if Bobby Lashley's hurt, but if he is, this point is irrelevant. But
yeah. If he
they
is,
haven't
there's a
done much
lot of
with
injuries.
Bobby lately anyway. So I don't know how much Tama beating Angelo Dawkins versus Bobby Lashley puts him over.
Yeah, and I think it's less putting him over and more just moving him up that bracket, where maybe they should have had a smaller tournament. Maybe they should have put people who don't matter as much in this tournament versus your Randy Ortons and your AJ Styles.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of what they used to do a little bit, like kind of what they're doing with women's bracket right now to get, like we said, some of those NXT stars some help. Um, but I mean, Xavier Woods was your last King of the Ring winner, so
Yeah,
it seems to be a tournament to help someone build momentum. But yeah, if you're looking at the brackets, I mean, it's clearly a collision course with some big names coming to the end.
yeah, and we're gonna very obviously start our King of the Ring shows for Wrestling is Fiction, and that's kind of where I struggled. Is we ended up with a smaller bracket, and I was still kind of like, do I want these big names in here that where they're gonna lose a tournament? Do I want to just push my mid carders? Do I want to just throw a tag team superstar in there just to kind of give them a extra match or two, kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, it took us a few conversations to come up with our final bracket um, and eventual winners. So I can imagine how hard it was for WWE with larger rosters and more spots to fill. But
Yeah,
yeah, I guess that's taken into consideration. I mean, do they want certain guys to lose matches in that tournament?
yeah,
Because now it's like, is Jey Uso going to make the final and lose another big match? How many times are we going to see that for him?
yeah, and that takes us right into Raw, where he had that main event early round with Ilya. I know it's kind of jumping out of order, but what did you think of that match?
Um, I love Ilya Dragunov from his NXT days. I'm glad he won his first round match against Ricochet. I would have liked to have seen Ilya win one more, but I mean, we know he's not going to beat Jey Uso. That was another spot where I thought they could have tweaked the bracket, but overall, the match was great. And for a while there, it looked like Ilya was going to win it.
Yeah, I both think it was a good match and a bad match at the same time, in that Jay is definitely the bigger star. He's obviously getting the push, but in a technical sense, he doesn't really hold up with Ilya, which kind of both makes him look a little worse the way he won, and also makes Ilya look like he was holding back.
Yeah, they're definitely different style wrestlers.
Which is just,
Ilya, Ilya is more technical, I would say, but I mean, he also he flies around a lot. So I
yeah,
don't know that Jay was his best match. Um, I don't know how much it did for Jey Uso, other than the crowd's happy to see him.
yeah, and then the internet is just full on having a meltdown that Jay won, and they don't get Gunther versus Ilya right off the bat. Which I read a comment on Twitter that said the general audience isn't ready for Gunther versus Ilya. A lot of them don't follow NXT as well. They don't follow who Ilya Dragunov is, and there's that very vocal minority that wants that match. But if they had it on Raw next week, it wouldn't go over the same way as it would if they built it up towards, say, Clash at the Castle or Bash in Berlin.
Exactly. Ilya needs more time on that main roster to get his name out there and show what he's capable of. I mean, a rivalry now, people would just expect Gunther to smash him, which we know wasn't the case in NXT.
Yeah, and they still got a little backstage face-off moment to get people kind of excited for that, but it's definitely too early for their match, but that's where I think that they probably should have had him up against someone else other than Jay in that early round, because it wasn't the best matchup for either of them in a technical sense and a wrestling sense, where you knew how it was going to go, but I don't know that it executed as well as it could have.
Yeah, and I get they need them because it's a tournament, but these predictable outcomes of main events aren't as fun. Um, I mean, I'm trying to think of matches where I was surprised
Yeah,
by the
I'm looking
winner
at the match
at
card and I'm
all.
not surprised.
I guessed Lyra and Zoe. That was the toss up for me. I could have saw that going either way. I kind of had a feeling Lyra was going to take it. Um, and I don't know. It looks like she's setting something up with Becky Lynch,
Yeah,
which,
which
full disclosure, I was thinking about it on my roster. Um, obviously the connection being Irish women, but WWE stole it from me already.
yeah, and they kind of have that connection already, and that kind of goes back to, are these the best brackets for the people they have? When are they trying to push her as a single star? Do they want her to team with Becky and kind of have this outside feud there? Does it make the best television to have her in both of these spots at the same time?
I think, and this is no way to confirm this or evidence, that they're keeping Lyra there. So when Becky eventually does lose that title, they're setting up another thing for her, whether it be going after tag titles or helping another star get over. But I mean, Lyra's had what, two good showings now? So,
Yeah,
and the crowd really seemed to get into her wrestling and like really behind her towards the end of that match. I mean, I think they were even chanting Lyra. So,
yeah, they were chanting her. They were chanting during her intro, kind of showing that they are familiar with her previous NXT days. So she kind of has that good push already. So just let her do it on her own then for a bit.
I think that's the case. I think this is just another way for them to throw her more on the camera and get her known.
Yeah. And then just outside of the matches, we had another Drew McIntyre spot to start off where he's kind of just complaining again about CM Punk, complaining about everything that happened, and finally someone comes out there and says, "It's your own fault." And Damian Priest came out and got face to face with him.
I love it when Drew gets a mic in his hand because he is going to say some ridiculous shit and it's going to be
Yeah.
funny. Immediately goes after CM Punk. I guess you kind of see the Damian thing coming. He hasn't really mentioned it since he lost, but he's going to be in the title picture. I know he was promised a title shot when he's healthy, whenever that is. I don't know. And there's always this CM Punk rivalry in the background. So it's like, I hope we don't get a predictable CM Punk interferes, Drew loses again.
Yeah.
I know they technically let Drew win the title, but how
Hey,
much more are you going to do to this man and not
hey,
give him?
he said he just wants to win it. Whatever happens after that's on him.
Well, I guess that's true, but
He got his
five
big
minutes, man.
WrestleMania. He got his big WrestleMania moment. He got his title. He held it up, and then he got knocked down immediately.
Yeah, and it's like
Uh,
we haven't heard anything about Seth Rollins since. They like
no.
failed to mention him. I mean, Drew even said it in his promo where it's a new title still and he needs to make it prestigious. I was like, are we forgetting that Seth Rollins defended that almost every week for
Yeah.
a year?
He defended it on Raw. He went down to NXT and defended it against Braun Breaker. Like, he was everywhere with that title, especially at the very beginning.
Yeah,
Um, do you by chance follow CM Punk or Drew McIntyre on social media?
I do not.
Okay, so I don't know if you've been following like all the rap news with Kendrick Lamar and Drake and their diss tracks towards each other,
Yeah,
but CM Punk made a little video edit of Drew McIntyre with all the Kendrick lyrics behind it that was pretty good. And then Drew McIntyre responded sitting at a desk writing on a piece of paper with the chorus from Stan playing in the background from Eminem, and he zooms out and it just says CM Punk's a bitch.
I saw that.
So
I don't
like
know if
they're
Drew's the one to go out on social media, but if those two, like I said last week, I could just watch them cut promos all the time.
yeah, they're keeping it up on the air, off the air, social media. It's so entertaining to see them just do this most ridiculous off the wall stuff just on Twitter, wherever they are at that moment.
Well, it's fun, man. I mean, you don't get them once a week anymore. You can kind of look into their minds and their rivalry. Um, Same thing with CM Punk, man. Is that guy ever going to get healthy? Are we ever
Yeah,
going to see this match?
I if you buy the DLC pack, you can have the match in WWE 2K24. That's about as close as you might get for a while. But outside of that, was there anything super notable about Raw after the Jey Uso match, the Damian Priest coming out?
There's the Alpha Academy stuff,
Yeah. Oh,
which
yeah, yeah.
I don't know. They're making Chad Gable look kind of like, I don't know what they're doing. Like, you just felt this big rivalry coming with Sammy, and they built it up, and then it's just like they haven't really done anything together. Like, they haven't cut
Yeah.
promos. They've interrupted matches a couple times, and it's mainly just Chad Gable being a dick to Otis.
Yeah, and I feel like the story is almost going to be more of Otis finally breaking free, possibly with Sammy's help, than it is about the Intercontinental title at this point.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And then
Chad's a monster.
your random Bronson Reed
The
insertion
most
into the match.
and the most important match of the night, which was Bronson Reed and Akira Tozawa, which was just the most inconsequential, unnecessary squash match there could have had.
Yeah.
Like Chad's just like, no, you know who's gonna face him tonight? Akira Tozawa. Don't dance out there, just go get murdered. Like,
And then what else did we have? We had Gunther and Kofi. I don't think that was a surprise. I don't know that I love this new thing of Gunther tapping people out all the time. I get it.
yeah,
He has submissions.
yeah,
But
and
Not Alpha Academy. The New Day doesn't deserve that.
no, and they've been teasing this like weird New Day Gunther feud for a while now, and I don't know what the payoff of it is.
I guess it was with Imperium, but not
Yeah,
now. I don't know.
yeah, but they're kind of still dragging it out, and then now it's kind of a we had the last King of the Ring. What are you gonna do about it, Gunther? And he's just like, I'll beat you. I'll just beat you. Like that's all that is to it. And so they have Kofi backstage with Carrie and Cross afterwards.
Yeah, that was interesting.
I just want to know where they're going with this. But at the same
Um,
time, what does it do for Gunther at this point?
well, Gunther obviously is being set up for an Ilya rivalry eventually. I could see him winning King of the Ring. I just don't know. You have Jey Uso on that side, so I don't know that that's going to happen.
Yeah, and is the next round Gunther and Jay? Yeah,
That,
I think that's the next round is Gunther versus Jay again. It's a rematch.
yeah, that makes sense.
Which, I don't know. Do they have Jay beat him in a King of the Ring tournament when he couldn't beat him for... Well, he could have beat him for the title, but they had him lose a title match against him? What does that do to Gunther's standing at that point?
Yeah, are you going to give him another loss? I could see a DQ happening in that situation.
Yeah, like, Gunther... Everyone expected him to lose the Intercontinental title so he can move up to that world title picture, but how do they do that in a tournament like this where he kind of isn't the one the crowd is behind and wanting to win at this moment because Jay has lost every other opportunity he's had. He has to have something, doesn't he?
Yeah, Gunther lost that title, and it really feels like people just forgot about him. Just
Yeah,
like,
and
I don't know what to do with him now.
does this? I just haven't really thought about this at all. But does this King of the Ring tournament end in Jay versus Tama Tonga? Are those your finalists that kind of kick off a new Bloodline chapter?
My finalists, and honestly, it's part of probably the match I want to see, is Randy Orton and Jey Uso. Um, but yeah, I could see a Randy Tama matchup on the SmackDown side, maybe to set up to keep that Bloodline feud going. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I don't know. I feel like this tournament is more just to get the big names to that PLE than it is to set anything up for the future.
and it
And
could
and I
be.
don't. It could be. I just don't know. And I also feel like these PLEs are coming so rapid fire back to back that we're not really getting a breather right now.
Yeah, they sort of mean less. Like you're kind of just they're happening so quickly that you're like, I don't expect any surprises or a major title
Yeah,
to switch hands.
because we've got
Um,
King and Queen of the Ring on the 24th, and then the next one's on the 15th of June.
yeah,
Like they're just barely 3 weeks in between each of them, and I feel like they just need to kind of push something back a little bit, just to give us a little more build towards these events.
the King of the Ring. I mean, it's never really been used for building rivalries. I don't think so. I don't think it's a bad spot for it. But yeah, like you said, we're getting PLE fatigue, if that's a term that we can make up just now. It is. It is like you said. I'm less interested in some of the storylines just because there's not been a lot of time to build them up.
Yeah, and which sucks because up until WrestleMania, all of the storylines at every level were actually pretty good. Really happy to follow everything. Even some of those one-off, like lower card stories, like were still entertaining. But now we're just getting these random matches that don't quite seem to match up on paper because the results are going to happen the way that they have to for the next event. You're not surprised by who's winning anything, and I don't know. I think we just need like an extra week or two between a PLE somewhere, but I don't know how they reschedule that in a way that builds, especially where, at least for the last couple, it seems like at the end of a PLE, they're almost resetting the stories and forgetting about what happened in the past.
Well, Mr. Darkstar Shady, that is why we are writing our own fiction, isn't it?
Yeah. Before we
Which,
get to our episode, there's one other match which was just that random number one contender spot for tag team, which I completely forgot about until I looked at this card right here. But a different combination of Judgment Days back in that number one contender spot, thanks to Carlito of all people.
yeah, I'm kind of waiting to see where that goes.
Yeah, thanks to Carlito hitting a move that probably hurt him more than the other guy when he dropped
It
himself on his own back on the table.
it looked like it hurt him more.
Yeah, but now we've got Finn and JD getting a number one contender spot, and still another week of happy, friendly Judgment Day with each other.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't like the direction they're taking Finn Balor. I think we've mentioned that.
Yeah,
They're making him look easy to beat.
at least he finally got a win. Even if it was thanks to Carlito, at least he finally got a
Him,
win.
JD McDonough finally got a win.
Yeah, he's been having just as bad a time as Finn, if not worse. But
Is he going to have to fight Braun Strowman?
that poor kid, like
Yeah.
going up to him backstage, being like, "We run this," and he's like up to not even his shoulder probably, and he's like, "Yeah, you're gonna answer to me now," and Braun Strowman just kind of laughs at him. Like, what else do you do?
Yeah.
Like you haven't won a match in how long, and you're gonna come up to me when I've taken everyone else out?
They always send him to handle the problem too, and it's always like the biggest, baddest guy that they can send him against. Hey, he wanted in the Judgment Day. That's what he gets.
Yeah. So unlike television, at least my Judgment Day on the next SmackDown is not going to be that same happy family, right?
Well, I guess we'll find out, won't we? I guess this is a
Yeah.
good segue into your episode of SmackDown.
Yeah, and as I'm looking at my notes, I titled my notes for the wrong episode number, so I threw myself off right there.
Well, at least you still have the notes. So what
Yeah.
this would be the SmackDown that's airing May 17th.
Yeah.
Okay.
So before we get into my version of SmackDown, we're trying something a little different, at least I am. We keep cutting it a little close on time, going over what we think, and I can't tell if people like our banter more or our storylines more. But this week I have some looser notes on the matches. I don't have quite as in-depth, like, play-by-play commentary. It's just going to be kind of bullet points of what we're hitting this week. So, starting off with SmackDown that you would be watching in a few days on the 17th, I've got the opening moments of SmackDown. It opens up with Jey Uso coming out. So Jey comes out, and he's out there, and like Judgment Day was kind of in shambles, and they've interrupted Jay's title shot, and he's just coming out, and he's like, you know what? I have the crowd behind me. That was my title match. I understand you guys have your own little drama brewing. You guys want to fight amongst each other, but you know, my shot was taken away, and I want that shot back. So, Finn, if you want that match, you have to beat me tonight to advance to be able to go against Damian again at King of the Ring. And then after he goes away, Nick Aldis does have a little backstage moment with him where he's like, yeah, I'll make that official. Main event tonight is Jey versus Finn for the number one contender spot. And after we come back from our first SmackDown break, it's the debut of Wes Lee. So he's got his match up against, of all people, Andre Chase of Chase U. And it's honestly a very quick match. Andre's got the rest of his group just kind of at the side of the ring trying to cheer him on, but mostly just kind of looking on in horror as Wes Lee just kind of makes quick work of him. He kind of just tosses him around, springboards off the ropes a few times, and just doesn't really give Andre much of a chance to fight back. And Wes Lee just gets a pretty dominant, probably 5 to 7 minute match where he wins that one in his first match on the main roster.
Big Wes Lee fan. I was
Yeah.
hoping he would be on a main roster, but that injury set him back. But I'm glad he's back in
Yeah.
NXT now.
Yeah. I'd like to see him get more of an upper level main event for NXT rather than being back in the mid card, but it is what it is. Hopefully, just coming back from injury is just kind of reacclimating him.
Yeah, we talked about that last week. Sorry to be on our high horse, guys, but we're passionate about Wes Lee.
Yeah, he's so talented. He's got so much that he can do, and I feel like that mid card is kind of played out for him now. I'd like to see him either move up to that NXT championship or come up to SmackDown or Raw and have like a mid card run there. Yeah, but after that, it goes into something that's kind of been building up for a couple of weeks, and that's going to be the Wolf Dogs coming out. Baron Corbin and Braun Breaker as their tag team coming out. Perfect. So they come out and they're in the ring, and they're greeted with the kind of an unlikely tag team that has kind of formed, Carmelo Hayes and Ricochet. So the previous 2 weeks, they've each had their own singles matches. They've been kind of keeping an eye on what the other's doing against the members of the Wolf Dogs, and they come out together just for the first time. So it's kind of a back and forth match at first. It starts off with Ricochet and Baron Corbin in the ring. They kind of just trade blows a little bit. Ricochet is kind of just dodging, flying around him, trying to out match him with the speed before Braun Breaker gets tagged in. They kind of go at it. Braun just kind of slows Ricochet down before he can tag out with Carmelo Hayes. And they're going at it. It's another throwback match to NXT, throwback to Carmelo's SmackDown debut here that we had a couple weeks ago. And that's when Braun Breaker hits him with a spear, like just out of nowhere, just his quick paced, fast speed hits Carmelo with a spear, but Carmelo kicks out at 2. Not sure if anyone really saw that coming, but Carmelo kicks out and he gets back over to Ricochet and tags him in. And Ricochet, he matches up with Braun more on a speed level, and they kind of go at it a little bit. Braun's running back and forth off the ropes. Ricochet's jumping over him. Um, and that's when Braun is like, you know what? I'm going to tag Baron Corbin in. And it's Ricochet and Baron again, which is a rematch of last week. And it ends the same way. Ricochet springboards off, kind of just slams himself into Baron Corbin. He's a little thrown off, and Ricochet gets that 3 count. So we're just kind of building up this feud between them that's kind of been brewing with singles, and just seeing how these new tag teams can kind of compete.
I gotta say, I'm surprised the Wolf Dogs lost in their debut.
Yeah, we're doing things a little different, and it was more of a they haven't tagged in a while, and they weren't quite expecting Ricochet and Carmelo to gel as well as they did. But they kind of studied each other a little bit.
Like that tag team you formed there.
Yeah, I honestly, it kind of came out of, what do I want to do with these guys? What do I want to see them do when I don't want any of them quite in an upper card title picture yet? I have some plans for the mid card championship I have, and I just wanted to give them a little something different to do, and I do need some more tag teams for my tag titles. Which, after that match, leads up to another debut on SmackDown of Gigi Dolan. So she comes out for her first match, and she's matched up against Candice LeRae, who's got Indy Hartwell at ringside with her. And they haven't really been seen too much the last few weeks, and this is a good reintroduction for them. And Gigi comes out, like, kind of excited for her first SmackDown match. She thinks she can kind of hang. And Candice LeRae just kind of tosses her around a little bit. She's a little more aggressive than she normally is, and she's definitely targeting, like, one of Gigi Dolan's knees. And she's kicking at it when she's on the ground. She's pushing her into the turnbuckles and kind of just, like, pressing up against it, trying to, like, bend it back a little bit. And gets to the point where Gigi gets out of the ring and just gets down onto the side, and she's kind of just, like, trying to reacclimate herself to what's happening, kind of get a breather. And Candice LeRae goes over to the ref and just starts, like, yelling at him just to kind of get him to turn away. And she's like, why aren't you counting faster? Count her out. Like, I know she's been out there for a second, but that's 10. And while she's doing that, Indy Hartwell goes over and just lays out Gigi Dolan outside the ring. Ref doesn't see it. He's getting yelled at. And right when that happens, Candice kind of turns away. She's like, oh, I get it. It's fine. She gets out of the ring, picks up Gigi Dolan, throws her back in, and she puts her in, like, a kind of a modified figure 4 to just, like, kind of tweak her knee even more until she passes out, actually. Gigi Dolan passes out, and she can't even tap out at that point. She's in so much pain. And Candice stands up, hands up in the air. Indy gets in the ring, hands up in the air, and they're like, look what we did. And they just walk off with Gigi just still laying in the ring. The officials kind of checking on her a little bit.
Before I react to this match, you guys don't know this because you can't see me, but I know I'm going to be judged for this. I'm drinking a White Claw, as Steven describes his SmackDown, which is what I kind of do anyway when I watch actual SmackDown, and I'm trying to be so quiet when I set it down, and Steven keeps making a face every time I do. I think I've been quiet enough so far. Anyway,
no, I wasn't even making that face at that. That's just my face, I think.
With that out of the way, I'm surprised you put 2 of your favorite ladies up against each other. I know that hurt that one of them had to lose.
It did hurt, but I do have a plan for Gigi, and I think her losing right now is going to tie into that plan better than I expected. That, and I just want Candice LeRae to just kind of get that mean streak going. Like, I want to kind of build off of that a little bit. And I didn't really have anyone else on my roster that I wanted to lose yet. But it's gonna come back around, I think. I'm not quite sure when that payoff will hit, but I've got plans. Yeah, go ahead.
That's it.
Okay.
Moving on.
Okay, so then we're about halfway through SmackDown, and as it's coming back from break, uh, they say, "Hey, we've got a big announcement," and Triple H comes out. He comes out with his music, and he's got his suit on. He gets in the ring, kind of just soaking in the crowd that doesn't get to see him as often anymore. He's not in front of the cameras, and that's when he makes the announcement that, "Hey guys, I know it's coming up. We haven't really talked about it, but King of the Ring is coming up in the next week, and we're going to start both the King and the Queen of the Ring tournaments on Raw. So it's going to be a little bit different. So we've got a SmackDown bracket and a Raw bracket, and whoever wins that, each side is going to be going against each other at King of the Ring. So SmackDown and Raw will each have 2 rounds on their aired television shows, and the finals will be at King of the Ring. And whoever wins that will get a title shot of their choosing. Doesn't matter what brand, doesn't matter what title. They get to go for what they want. And the Queen of the Ring tournament's going to be a little different. It's going to be SmackDown versus Raw again, but only 1 round will be on each television show, and the final 2 rounds will both be at the King Queen of the Ring event. They're going to be fighting not just for the prestige of being the Queen of the Ring, but they're going to be fighting that out for a new mid-card title. And we have a new title coming out that will be cross-brand. Whoever wins it will be able to defend it anywhere, and it's going to be the Women's National Championship.
Yeah, this is probably one of my favorite things that you honestly came up with for this wrinkle of Queen of the Ring. I think it's really cool and sort of gives our King and Queen of the Ring that extra oomph that it needs.
Yeah, I just haven't been excited by what they've been talking about with King and Queen of the Ring. And you and I have talked multiple times about how there either should be a women's mid card title on television, or one of us could make one. And this seemed like a good opportunity to kind of give the tournament a little bit higher stakes and introduce something new.
Perfect, man. Well, I'm excited to see where this goes and to crown our first women's national champion.
Yeah. So then Triple H leaves, and it kind of just goes to another break again. And when it comes back, we've got another singles match. So it's going to be Liv Morgan against Io Sky. And this one's going to be a number 1 contenders match for Bayley's Women's Championship. And Damage Control is all out there with Io. Liv has kind of just had her way with the entire group up to this point. She's been tossing them around. She's been kind of just dominating all of them. So Io Sky puts up a much better fight. She kind of holds Liv off from just getting too aggressive too early. She keeps her on her toes, and honestly, the 2 of them have a pretty good match. Io starts to wear down after a little bit, and you can see Liv is getting a little more aggressive. And that's when Dakota Kai just gets in the ring and clotheslines Liv. She doesn't want Io to lose, and she lets it end in a DQ. The ref has to call it, and before Damage Control, like the Kabuki Warriors, can get in the ring to do anything else, Bayley's music hits. And she comes out holding her title. She looks at both of them, and she's like, you know what? I kind of expected this, so I guess I'm taking on both of you down the road. I guess I'm going to defend this title in a triple threat match.
Wow. Io Sky finally gets her rematch.
Yeah. It's something that no one seems to get anymore. But it's a little different, but she is going to get her rematch. Not quite the way she expected, but Bayley's game for it. Liv looks upset. Io, I don't know if she looks upset exactly, but she's a little surprised that Dakota got involved in the match. It always seems kind of like they're not quite on the same page, but it all works out for them in the end. Io still gets her shot.
It'd be a good match, man. I'm looking forward to that one.
Then after that, there's just a quick promo of Gunther coming out, and he doesn't have Ludwig Kaiser with him. He doesn't have Giovanni Vinci with him. It's just him. He comes out. He gets in the ring. He holds up his microphone. He's like, you know what? Last week, isn't really what I expected. I thought that Ludwig Kaiser would put Giovanni Vinci away. I thought that we were going to move on from him, and he couldn't do it. And at this point, I'm a little frustrated, so the two of them are going to have to fight it out in a street fight next week.
Love a
So
good street fight.
whoever wins that will get to stand tall with me. Whoever wins that will move on with me. The other one can be tossed to the wolves, for all I care. And then we have, after that, another matchup, and it's A-Town Down Under getting their rematch against DIY for the tag titles. A-Town Down Under comes out first. They're cocky as usual. You can kind of see a little bit of tension between the two of them, but they look a little more focused than they have. DIY comes out, and they kind of are kind of thrown off balance by how in sync A-Town Down Under seems at this point. It's a very back and forth match. It goes for a while, and when it ends, a couple things happen. One is Tommaso Ciampa takes the turnbuckle off the corner, the cover, and he throws Austin Theory into it. Ref doesn't see it, but you can see that he's in a little more pain than he thought. Meanwhile, Grayson Waller is actually the legal man, but he's out of the ring. He's been knocked out. It's been a little bit of chaos. He comes running up with his little rolling stunner as he jumps through the ropes and gets met right in the face with a super kick from Johnny Gargano. Just knocks him out in the middle of the ring for the 3 count, and DIY retains. Tommaso Ciampa was doing a little bit more aggressive things. Johnny Gargano didn't quite see all of it either. Ciampa's just kind of going on his own a little bit and taking the covers off, fighting a little dirtier, but they got the win.
Yeah, very Ciampa-esque of when he came back in the WWE universe before he joined Johnny Gargano. That's a dangerous Ciampa, man.
Yeah, no, they were kind of facing a bigger challenge than they thought they would, but they held it together. They kept their titles for another week. And then that leads us into our main event of Jey Uso and Finn Balor.
What a match. What a booking.
Jey Uso comes out. He's got the whole crowd behind him. He's in the ring. He's soaking in his moment. And Finn Balor comes out with JD McDonough. And they've got about 20 minutes to this match. They're very back and forth for a lot of it. They're kind of just fighting it out. Jay's got momentum going for a bit. Finn kind of reels it in, though, a couple different times and kind of slows the match down. They're trading blows back and forth. And at one point, Jay is against the corner, and JD starts to get up and interfere, and Finn waves him off. He's like, no, I got this. He pulls Jay away from the corner and hits him with an inverted 1916, which is the move where he kind of has Jay backwards arced back, lifts him up, and slams him back down. And then Finn gets up on the top rope and hits him with a coup de grace and gets the 3 count. And Finn actually gets a clean win over Jay to get his match against Damian Priest at King and Queen of the Ring.
You know, with the momentum Jay has built in the real world and in the Wrestling is Fiction universe, I'm surprised, but also selfishly as a fan, I'm happy. I've been waiting for this Finn Balor push for a long time, so I'm glad it's happening on our show.
Yeah, I was really unsure if Jay should lose and if he should get another match against Damian Priest, but at this point, Jay is kind of giving it his all at a lot of these moments, and he's fallen short a few times. It's unfortunate he lost again this time, but it was a clean loss too. Finn actually was the better competitor in this moment.
Yeah, outside of our universe and the WWE universe, you wonder if Jimmy Uso's ever going to come back and reconcile and maybe help Jay win one of these big matches. But in our universe, obviously, they're separated, or so we think.
Yeah, at least for now.
Poor Jey Uso, though, but I'm glad that Finn finally got a clean win.
Yeah. So then that'll lead us into your Raw after the weekend and the beginning of the King of the Ring, Queen of the Ring tournaments.
Yeah, man. That was a great SmackDown to lead into my Raw. All right. So this is the May 20th Raw, which coincidentally I'll actually be at in Greensboro, North Carolina. Um, I guess I'm at the one in our world because I wrote it also. So anyway, show opens with Adam Pearce and SmackDown's general manager Nick Aldis in the ring. If you remember, last week ended with the Final Testament kind of laying out the bloodline and standing over them. So they kind of come out, they'd announced the Final Testament. Adam Pearce is like, they're barred from the building. They will not be here. We've posted security, so they're not. Nick Aldis says they're still suspended on SmackDown. We don't want to see their faces. What they did was not right. You shouldn't just attack people. Bloodline comes out. Solo Sikoa says, you better hope we don't find them first, because if we do, we're going to injure them. And there's nothing you can do about it, Pearce. Kind of drops the mic. Pearce has that like worried look on him, and Aldis is kind of staring at the situation like this isn't good. I don't know if they're going to show up on SmackDown too. And then something weird happens. The lights all cut out. It's really dark in the arena. And for a split second, the Final Testament's black and white logo pops up on every screen and gives light. And then all the lights snap back on. You see the bloodline kind of looking around to see where they're going to come out. You know, Tama Tonga's there, Tongaloa, Solo, Paul, they're all looking around to see where they might, if they're coming out of the stands or backstage. Aldis and Pearce in the ring are confused. They look up at the bloodline, and Solo motions to Tongaloa and Tama Tonga go, and they run backstage to look for the Final Testament. And we hit our commercial break. Perhaps more to come. Maybe they find them, maybe they don't.
That's a good opening.
Yeah, I had fun with that. I remember coming up with that late at night. Was it 2 nights ago? Maybe last night. I texted it to you. I'm excited for this Final Testament bloodline sort of rivalry brewing here.
Yeah, I think that of all of the groups, they probably are the one that physically could actually go toe-to-toe with the bloodline.
Well, they also kind of match each other's, I don't even know how to, cerebral, I guess is what you would call it, energy.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's really something you'd expect from two, like, pretty heel groups, but at the same time, it just gives it kind of all the more, like, brutality to it.
Yeah, that's what I want. You don't know how far they're willing to go, being that they are both heels.
Yeah, I like it. I like the way you're building it.
All right, so next we have our round 1 King of the Ring match. The first round 1, and this is Kevin Owens against Sheamus. So remember, the way our King of the Ring is working is we're both selecting 4 guys, so it's an 8-man tournament. This is a back and forth match like you'd expect. It's Sheamus. He puts on bangers, as he likes to say. But Sheamus finally gains momentum. He's lining up that bro kick. He's getting ready to hit it. KO's kind of wobbly. But, you know, KO wherewithal to duck it, spin Sheamus back around, and hit his stunner. He knows that's probably not going to do it with Sheamus. He climbs up on the rope and hits a swanton bomb, covers it, and wins it. KO advances in the first round.
Nice. I know we talked a lot about the big names being in the King of the Ring tournament on television, and I feel like we're kind of doing the same thing, but at the same time, Sheamus doesn't have a lot to do right now. Like, I don't think it's really a bad thing for him to take a loss in this tournament.
And I feel like he always puts on good matches.
Yeah. Doesn't matter if he wins or loses. He has enough momentum to take it either way and just give you good television.
All right. Next match, we have our first round of the Queen of the Ring tournament. And now remember, the Women's National Championship is on the line for the winner of this tournament. So we're going to have Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler meet up. And surprisingly, Shayna kind of comes out really focused and starts dominating this match. She's getting her strikes in, her kicks. Even gets Nia into her what's it called? Kurafuda clutch, her finisher. And it looks like she has her center ring. It looks like Naya's dead to rights and is going to tap. But, Naya's pretty strong. She struggles for a while and eventually is able to grab those ropes. Breaks the count. Shayna kind of gets really frustrated. She hasn't been having a good run. She kind of stomps Nia, doesn't really do anything. The ref pulls her off, kind of lectures her, gives time for Nia to recover. She takes advantage of it. She gains back momentum, eventually hitting her Samoan drop into her Annihilator finisher and wins to advance and Queen of the Ring. Kind of does the title motion and the crown motion as she's taunting the crowd after her win.
I like it. I wasn't sure if you were going to have Nia win or not, honestly.
Yeah, and you'll understand why later in the show. I had to set something else up.
Yeah, and we're doing, just the first round of women's.
Exactly.
Right?
So that's it for Nia in the first round. So it cuts to Becky Lynch backstage. She's with Jackie Redmond for an interview. Jackie asked her, you have your big title defense against Zoe Stark coming up at Queen of the Ring. How are you feeling about it? Becky in her typical fashion, I'm ready for a fight. I've been in the ring with Zoe before. I know I can beat her. I'm not going to lose this title this soon. And suddenly Nia comes walking up after her victory and says, when I'm done with Queen of the Ring and I'm your national champion, I'm going to be the first women's double champ because I'm coming after you. And then kind of stares at Jackie Redmond, smacks the microphone out of her hand and walks away.
Okay. I like it.
That leads us into the next round one King of the Ring match. We have LA Knight versus Ilya Dragunov. And, Knight's kind of been on a losing streak, and he had that talk with Sami Zayn last week to hopefully hype him up. And it looks like LA Knight, whatever he's done his work. He's dominating Ilya early. He's getting frustrated, though. He can't put him away. Ilya seems to keep kicking out. Won't back down. We know Ilya Dragunov now. He's a fighter. And in fact, Ilya even takes advantage of momentum and hits his H-bomb and gets a near fall. Both men are laying in the ring. You can kind of see LA Knight looking stunned, I don't know how I haven't won this match. But the crowd gets behind him. He gains his momentum. He starts throwing his few punches, center ring, and he hits his DDT. He's able to hit his leaping elbow drop. I don't think he has a name for it yet. Stalks. Ilya gets up. LA Knight hits his BFT. Finally gets his 3 count. Finally gets a win after a few weeks of really scuffling there.
That's another one where I wasn't sure where you were taking it, honestly. I could see either one of them winning. And I can definitely see LA Knight getting really frustrated with Ilya because he just doesn't give up.
Yeah, it hurt. I love Ilya Dragunov a lot to make him lose. But again, we're setting something up, which actually happens to lead us into a Sami Zayn promo. We're coming up to Saudi Arabia. Sami Zayn's a crowd favorite there. He comes out. He congratulates LA Knight, says, hey, I've been there before. I'm glad you finally got the monkey off your back and got the win. In fact, you have a title shot waiting for this Intercontinental title if you win King of the Ring. Drops the mic, walks out, kind of a standing offer. We'll see what LA Knight does in this tournament. Leads into the next Queen of the Ring matchup, which is Tiffany Stratton versus Ivy Nile. And this really isn't a close match. Tiffy kind of dominates. She's coming off that DQ technical loss to Nia Jax, but, beat the hell out of her with a chair. So she's fired up. She knows Nia's waiting for her on that other side. Hits her back handspring corner splash. Ivy kind of stumbles. She hits that Alabama slam that she loves, and she covers and wins it. And also makes the crown motion above her head. knowing that she has Nia Jax staring at her, which has happened to be a big rivalry here on Raw.
Yeah, yeah. I really like Ivy Nile.
Yeah, I do
I
too.
wish I wish they were doing more with her. They just had her take a loss in NXT for their qualifiers for the mid card title there.
Yeah, I saw that. That was odd to me.
Like they gave her a main roster push. They were pushing her and the Creed brothers pretty well, and then just kind of dropped all of them at once.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
feel like
maybe
she
Braun
could compete a
Strowman's
little
with
better.
them now.
Yeah, he's yeah,
Anyway,
no, he's terrifying.
this and remember, Tiffany's never beat Nia here in Wrestling is Fiction, so it'll be an interesting final here for Raw. That cuts to the Awesome Truth backstage. You know, R-Truth, being his confused self, is talking to The Miz like, yeah, man, King of the Ring's going to be fun. I can't wait for us to win it. We're going to be Kings of the Ring. And Miz is like, that's not how that works, Truth. We're not even in the tournament. You can't tag in that tournament. He goes, well, then what do we have these titles for? And Miz is like, we have to defend them next week. And he's like, next week? He's like, yeah, remember, we're fighting the family next week on Raw for these titles. And that's when the family approaches them. And Tony D'Angelo, kind of respectfully, but also a little arrogant, says, thanks for holding those for us and keeping them warm, but we're taking them next week on Raw. And Truth goes, wait, you're in King of the Ring too? And Miz goes, let's go, Truth. And they walk away. And then the camera kind of cuts to a next week on Raw promo and says, just announced tag titles match, Awesome Truth versus the Family. And next week, AJ Styles finally gets his rematch against Cody Rhodes in the main event for the WWE Championship. So big Raw next week.
Yeah, the fact that I could see that entire backstage stage segment perfectly in my mind, I can perfectly see the Miz's confused expressions at R-Truth not understanding this.
Yeah, I'm gonna have fun writing R-Truth.
Yeah.
All right, so we have our round 2 King of the Ring main event. Kevin Owens and LA Knight, and this is a real back and forth match, kind of longer, over 20 minutes. Both guys are really pounding each other. KO bounces off the ropes, kind of bumps LA Knight down. He's able to hit a swanton bomb, and LA kicks. Back and forth again, punches. Knight takes momentum. He hits his DDT and his flying elbow drop, and KO kicks. They finally get to this is awesome chance. Both guys have been going at it for a while, kicking out of signature moves and finishers. And then finally, towards the end, KO feels like he has time to go for the stunner, so he goes for it, and LA Knight dodges it and hits his BFT. Kind of knowing that KO's been kicking out of everything, he stalks him and hits him a second time with a BFT and finally wins again. And he is now Raw's finalist for the King of the Ring PLE.
Yeah, that's a good finish. I'm really interested to see who his opponent ends up being next week when we do SmackDown.
Only you know.
Yeah. Do I know yet?
I don't know. And as LA Knight's kind of up on the crowd, doing his LA Knight chants, hyping the crowd up, it cuts to the back scene, and all you see is chaos. There's garbage cans and chairs all over. You see a bunch of refs running around. It's kind of following Adam Pearce, and he runs up to the scene to see what happens, and it's just AOP, kind of bloodied, buried in trash from a trash can, dented trash cans, and chairs all over. No Karrion Kross though. Solo Sikoa doesn't seem to be there. The Bloodline doesn't seem to be there. We don't really know who attacked him. Obviously, we have an idea. And then it ends with Paul Heyman sort of strolling up. open mouth, just staring at the scene. And the camera fades and cuts out, and that is Monday Night Raw.
That's a great closing shot, honestly, because like even in WWE right now, Paul Heyman's got this look on his face at all times, like he's slightly terrified of what he's a part of.
Scared to be
And
there, man.
yeah, he's scared to be there, but he's even more scared of leaving
Yeah.
at this point, I think.
Just hoping Roman answers his phone call.
Just coming face to face with Jey Uso a couple weeks ago, where he just kind of stared at him and just kind of
like
shook
the
his head a
please
little
help
bit.
me.
Like, please help me, but also stay far away if you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'm already in this. Like, it's too late for me. Save yourself.
All right. With that, next week we got kind of a longer writing show. We got your pre-King of the Ring SmackDown. We'll do our
Yep.
King of the Ring, and then we'll have the Raw following. So big week next week for you guys. And as always, make sure you subscribe, give us 5 stars, like it, whatever platform you're on. That's the best way to get other people to hear our stories. I'm going to let Mr. Shady here shout out his socials before we get off.
Yeah, big thing is we're on multiple platforms now. So we're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on Amazon, and we just got onto YouTube as well. You can find us by searching Wrestling is Fiction on any of those. You can find me on YouTube as youtube.com/@darkstarshady, and it's got our podcast on my channel directly. And like you said, just like, follow, subscribe, leave a comment and interact. I know Spotify and YouTube both have comment sections that you can leave them on. I honestly didn't even know Spotify did comments until I started this podcast either. So I don't know how many of you know that you can leave your thoughts to us on Spotify and say what you like, say what you don't like, tell us that we're dumb about certain wrestlers, tell us you hate our opinions, tell us you love our opinions. Just the more interaction we get, the more we know that you're liking it and wanting to hear from us each week. You can find me at DarkStarShady on just about every social media platform at this point. TikTok's the one I post on most regularly with trading cards, sports cards. I've got some WWE card videos on there that shows off some of the nice autographed cards I've gotten from PAX. And really, that's about it.
All right. Well, for myself and my partner, Darkstar Shady, thank you for listening, and you will hear from us next week.